What if the deepest source of your chaos isn't your current life, but an invisible inheritance passed down through your very bones? The father wound we speak of goes far beyond the man you call dad. It's about the first symbol of structure, of direction, of a force that should have been solid ground beneath your feet. When that symbol is cracked, absent, or a storm itself, a child doesn't just lose a parent, their inner world loses its North Star. For the deeply feeling person, this fracture cuts in a unique way. You didn't just live in your childhood home's emotional weather. You were the weather. You absorbed the silent fears, the held breaths, the love that felt conditional. You drank the atmosphere of the house before you even knew its name. You might trace your turmoil to adulthood, to relationships that drain you or emotions that tsunami without warning. But the seed was planted in a much quieter, earlier soil. It was sown in the moments you felt you had to hold a world together that was already coming apart. The injury wasn't the event itself. It was the story your young mind had to craft to make it through. That young psyche whispered, "If I can sense every shift, maybe I can stop the earthquake. If I please everyone, maybe the roof won't fall in." So you learned to give emotionally while the adults around you provided. This dynamic buried itself so deep in your unconscious that for years, you might have mistaken constant scanning for caring and taking on others' pain for true intimacy. The father wound isn't only about the father. It's about the shattering of a fundamental pillar, the one meant to demonstrate boundaries, inner confidence, and a path forward. When that pillar is shaky, the child absorbs instability as their birthright, and so the highly sensitive adult walks through life with a ghost limb, an ability to foresee emotional danger, yet a profound inability to feel truly safe, even in calm seas. Your body remembers the old tremors. Your heart recalls the old imbalance. Your nervous system hasn't forgotten carrying a weight that was never yours to lift. In my work, a powerful pattern of inner images arises for those with this wound. A compass with no true north. A foundation made of sand. A lighthouse whose light flickers and dies. These aren't random dreams. They are your soul's direct report on the missing internal architecture the father principle should have built. Yet in the sensitive soul, this missing structure is often replaced with a different capacity, the ability to sense the entire emotional ecosystem of a room, a family, a culture. This is both your profound gift and your crushing burden. Without an inner container strong enough to hold this sensitivity, you flood, you overflow. But when the wound is integrated, that same sensitivity crystallizes into perception, into a wisdom that sees in the dark. It becomes a quiet fortitude, the kind that doesn't need to yell to be heard. Your chaos is not a flaw. It is unmet guidance screaming to be heard. The healing task isn't to fix the past or change the father you had. It is to construct, from within, the inner pillar that was never shown to you. It's the creation of an internal father, a presence that offers orientation, protection, and form to your vast emotional landscape. Without this, you remain porous, taking in everything with no psychic filter. With it, you become a sanctuary centered, capable of holding profound depth without being pulled under. Some of you have been told you're too much, too emotional, too intense. But these aren't personality flaws. They are brilliant, ancient survival plans. Survival strategies are always the psyche's attempt to bring order to a world that felt disordered. When the father figure was emotionally missing or unpredictable, the child's intuition compensated by becoming the family's emotional manager. You learned early that quiet could be a warning siren, that affection might be withdrawn without reason. So you became vigilant. This wasn't mere sensitivity. It was protection masterfully disguised. Let's look deeper. Many report dreams of wandering in vast, directionless landscapes, searching for a border that never appears, or knocking on a door that remains forever locked. These dreams speak of a longing for containment, for definition, for the internal boundary that should have been a birthright. The endless landscape is your emotional world without a container, the locked door. That's the inner world of the Father, inaccessible, a mystery, a source of fear or simple emptiness. You may have left that childhood house physically, but its blueprint was stamped on your soul. That emotional floor plan travels with you until you decide to redesign it from the ground up. Healing doesn't start with forgiving anyone else. It begins when you finally meet the version of you that was sculpted by that early atmosphere. Only then can you re-enter your own psyche and see with clear eyes how your adult choices, your relationships, your exhaustion have been silently drafted from that old, wounded blueprint. The deeply feeling person often fears their own anger because anger was unsafe. They apologize for their needs because needs were ignored. They make themselves small, quiet, agreeable because childhood taught them that survival depended on it. So the adult becomes passive when they should lead, self-sacrificing when they should choose themselves, and endlessly accommodating where firm lines are needed. These aren't signs of weakness. They are the symptoms of a wounded inner structure. But here is a deeper truth held in ancient stories. The wounded one often becomes the seer. The father wound, when consciously carried, forges in you an inner solidity that can't be taught in any school. It is born in the fire of surviving chaos and choosing not to let that chaos write your destiny. The weight you carry is the material from which your inner compass is forged. You may remember being the child who patched up siblings, who calmed a parent's distress, who monitored the pressure gauge in a volatile home. In those moments, a core belief was etched into your being. If I don't hold this, everything will break. This belief becomes a silent companion for decades, showing up in adult life where you become the healer, the understander, the steady one. Even when you are crumbling inside, the unconscious truth is you are replaying the original assignment, repeating the ancient script until you bring it into the light. Healing means acknowledging the child within is still on that old watchtower, still scanning the horizon for a storm that's long past. They are still waiting for someone to hold the line. When you offer that child compassion, when you whisper, "I am here now, and I have us," the old burden begins to lighten. Not overnight, but as your psyche learns a new, safer rhythm. Consider the archetype of the inner guide, the wise presence within. For many with this wound, this figure remains asleep, buried under layers of doubt or emotional fatigue. When the outer father figure is fractured, this inner guide cannot fully awaken. But as healing unfolds, this presence stirs. It doesn't manifest as loud dominance, but as a quiet knowing, a voice that says, "You know the way." You can trust your own inner signal. Your no is sacred. This voice doesn't shout. It speaks with a calm certainty. And its emergence marks the turn from inner turmoil to unshakable groundedness. When you fortify this inner structure, your sensitivity gains direction, your intuition clears, your emotions become messengers, not tyrants. Now we must speak of the shadow. For many, the father becomes a shadow figure, not necessarily due to malice, but because he represented something the young psyche could not solve. A father who is there, yet not there, creates a paradox the mind cannot resolve. The shadow grows in the silences, the unpredictable reactions, the unsaid rules, and the sensitive soul absorbs not just his presence, but his profound absence. This absence becomes a powerful imprint, a void that echoes into adulthood. You are ultimately alone. You must do it all yourself. But the shadow is not the foe. The shadow is the strictest teacher. To heal, you must be willing to walk into that shadow. Not to accuse, but to comprehend. You must ask your unconscious, what story did I invent to survive? What role did I take on that was never mine to play? What weight did I pick up that belongs to another's journey? These questions don't aim to change history. They aim to reclaim your soul from history's grip. Some of you will feel a deep, old sorrow when you touch this place. Grief for the guarded childhood. Grief for the protection you deserved but never received. Grief for the steadiness you ached for. This grief is not a setback. It is the doorway. Grief is the threshold where your true strength begins to form. The child who was denied guidance weeps, and from that weeping rises the adult who becomes their own unwavering guide. The chaos, the emotional floods, the porous boundaries, these don't heal by being stamped out. They heal through integration. You don't heal by feeling less. You heal by building an inner pillar strong enough to hold all that you feel. This is the great turnaround. You become powerful not by numbing your heart, but by developing an inner father resilient enough to shelter it. And when that inner father awakens, your old chaos undergoes an alchemical shift. It becomes discernment. It becomes a calm, rooted power that has walked through the fire and fears no heat. This inner work isn't done by thought alone. You can't just think your way to wholeness. The unconscious doesn't follow logic. It responds to lived experience, to symbol, to emotional truth. This is why so many repeat the same painful patterns even after years of insight. The mind gets it, but the psyche hasn't yet rebuilt its home. What does rebuilding look like? It means the old blueprint, written in the language of unpredictability, silence, or coldness, is gently replaced with an internal architecture capable of sheltering your vastness. This takes time. It unfolds like the changing seasons. Often the first sign is an inner crumbling, not of you, but of the false self you built to survive. The relationships you once accepted become intolerable. The caretaking drains you utterly. The burdens feel impossible. Don't mistake this collapse for failure. It is your psyche rejecting the old, unsafe blueprint. It is your soul declaring, "We cannot live here anymore." This collapse is the quiet beginning of your comeback. The father wound often lives on as an internal voice, distant, critical, or simply absent. It's the voice that says your feelings are too much, to stay small, to avoid rocking the boat. That voice isn't yours. It's a psychic recording from a past that no longer rules your life. Healing starts when you recognize that recording is obsolete. But the psyche doesn't just delete it. It transforms it. The harsh critic becomes the wise counsel. The absence becomes a grounding presence. This transformation is a psychological reality. You are building within yourself what the outer world failed to provide. In dreams, this often looks like finding a lantern in a deep wood, or a single steady flame in the dark. That light is the spark of your inner father. It flickers at first. It's hard to trust. But it grows in strength exactly as you learn to turn toward it. For the sensitive soul, healing also involves reclaiming a sacred form of anger. Not rage, but a righteous fire that says, "My borders matter. The child I was deserved safety. I will not abandon myself to be loved." This anger is not destructive. It is reconstructive. It is the force that builds the boundary your childhood lacked. Many fear this feeling, linking it to a father's volatility. But your anger is not his. It is the voice of your soul, your inner truth, your inner authority. Held with awareness, it becomes your greatest ally in rebuilding. One of the most pivotal realizations is this: The wound often makes you seek external fathers, in partners, bosses, gurus, hoping they'll give you the stability you missed. But no one outside can fill an inner absence. They can reflect it, support it, but they cannot complete it. This is your sovereign task, to become your own source of direction and anchor. This doesn't mean isolation. It means you can finally meet others from a place of wholeness, not hunger. You stop choosing partners who replay the old drama. You stop tolerating emotional instability. You stop confusing intensity for love. You stop leaving yourself to keep the peace. When the father wound heals, you stop carrying people and start walking beside them. You no longer feel responsible for managing others' emotional climates. Your sensitivity matures into discernment, knowing what is yours to hold and what is not. Imagine the archetype of the inner sovereign, not a tyrant, but a symbol of benevolent inner leadership. In the wounded state, this archetype is dormant, buried under doubt. As you heal, this sovereign awakens. This is about inner rulership, the ability to choose without guilt, to stand firm without apology, to remain steady when others project their chaos onto you. The healed, sensitive soul doesn't become hard, they become clear. Their boundaries aren't walls, they are the frame that lets love flow in without drowning them. You'll eventually feel something new, an inner solidity. It might feel like standing on bedrock for the first time. It might be a sudden, quiet certainty about what you will no longer allow. This is the awakening of your inner father. It's the moment the inner child realizes they are finally, truly held. This often comes after a time of intense inner conflict. The psyche tests the new structure. It revisits old loops. This isn't going backward. It's integration. The psyche making sure the new foundation is solid before moving in for good. In this tension, a synthesis is born, a quiet, immovable strength. This strength doesn't need to prove itself. It isn't shaken by withdrawal of love or the need for validation. It stands anchored and aware. Your old chaos, through the alchemy of consciousness, is no longer a threat. It is the raw material from which your wisdom is refined. Your depth becomes discernment. Your past becomes a library of knowledge, not a prison. The healed you doesn't lose softness. You gain a backbone. You don't stop feeling. You stop absorbing uncontrollably. You walk into the world not with armor, but with unshakable clarity. If this resonated, if you felt seen, then do this channel a great service. Hit the likey button right now. It tells the algorithm to share these winds of thought with others who need to hear them. Your journey inward is the most important one you'll ever take.